At the end of it, we wonder why. What were we waiting for? But anyway, we'll find out here. We're going to meet the gang. We're going to kick around the big stories of the day and the week with you and with them. And let me start with, they're not even sitting in the right places. They're all over the place.
No. I always sit in this spot.
I always sit in this spot.
He's more important than I am.
Note to the booker, maybe don't put us on together.
Listen to this attitude I'm getting right off the bat.
Sorry.
Easy there, Pancake boy.
Hey.
All right, Robert Fleming from the Magnolia Pancake House is here. And you are so close.
Oh man, if I could just throw a rope around it and drag it over the finish line myself,
to
I
your
would.
second location,
Yeah.
over by the medical center.
Yep.
And what's holding you up? Oh, it's the weather, right?
The weather, yeah. We're at the point where we need to lay the parking lot. It's a 2.5 day process, and you know now with it having rain, we need for it to dry out for a couple of days. So. As much as I love this rain and we need this rain and I thank the Lord for it, I'm just asking, give me 5 dry days, bro. 5 dry
so
days.
it's putting you off a little bit.
Yeah.
Are people just everywhere you go just like...
Oh, man, I mean, between, you know, calls to the restaurant,
Yeah.
people asking me when they see me, Facebook, Twitter, it's everybody wants to know. And believe me, folks, if we could open it up today, we would.
Well, it's a nice problem to have, right?
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people would kill to have my problem.
But in the meantime, everything's still going great at the original.
Oh, yeah.
Winners of
Original
West
is
Avenue.
rocking right along, and folks are digging it and getting great feedback on all the sites, and so we know we're on the right track.
Robert Fleming here with us on Gang of Four. The First Lady of the Left.
Yes.
America's First Lady of the Left, Lisa Hunt, is here.
Good morning, everybody. I'm here with my friend Robert Fleming.
Get a good close-up. This is the happiest she will be right now.
Because he's so smart.
I'm sure we'll blow it up a little bit today.
We should blow it up a little bit.
I'm looking forward to that.
I'm going to Florida in 3 weeks. I'm going away for the first time in 2 years since I've been
Is it something I said?
struck down with disease.
Does that differ from being put away?
I should be put away for
Okay,
this.
you said it.
I know, but still.
All right, well, we're glad you're here today.
I'm glad I'm
We're
here
glad
today,
we got one more appearance out of you before you went to Florida. You're just visiting Florida. You're not...
I'm going to do nothing. I'm going on a short vacation
nice.
to do absolutely nothing but stare at the ocean
All right.
and eat good food, which
right.
we can't, the kind of food I can't get here.
Jade Esteban Estrada, I feel bad. I've been calling you all these years a comedian, and then I looked on Facebook and you're a humorist. I am so sorry.
How Will Rogers of you?
I feel like comedian is like a cheap, tawdry term. Like,
Really?
You know what? I came to a point in my life where I was like, listen, I'm doing writing, I do these solo shows,
Yeah.
I do my stand-up comedy, and whatever
damn it, I'm
I
a
do,
humorist.
my point has always been to make people kind of chuckle, at least.
Yeah.
And so I decided to just sum it all up, and I got the seal of approval from Taylor on that. I think you were the first one to say, Jade, I really like that, and then he deleted his comment. So
You're more, what's like humorist is more grown up, more all-encompassing, more...
I will always be a humorist. I may not always be a stand-up comic.
Okay.
So
I see.
yeah.
All right.
I would definitely say it has longevity there.
You're a multimedia humorist.
Yeah, multimedia humorist.
And you write the column for Plaza de Armas TX.com called Glitter Political.
I do.
Which is kind of like Prez Hilton meets William Safire. Well, they wouldn't because William Safire's dead.
I don't know.
At least some meeting.
Maybe he has met him, however.
Yeah. So
Greta
you like to interview people
I do.
and you sort of bring it all out and you ask them questions they're not used to being asked.
I find it very interesting that so many questions have not been asked to politicians, and that's what really engages my interest in them sometimes, because we'll spend sometimes 30 minutes over lunch and they kind of do their little yo-yo.
Yeah, and you get their guard down a little bit because you see they think they're having lunch with a humorist.
Exactly.
and they don't expect. With me, they get their guard up. They're all tense, but with you, they're laughing, and all of a sudden, you hit them with it.
Because for the most part, that kind of stuff doesn't really interest me. I want to know, what the beginnings of all their, policy and ideology, where that came from. I mean, like, where are you from? What do you eat for breakfast? And where'd you get that
How many
fabulous
people
outfit?
did you bully?
Exactly. It's interesting to me, and so that's kind of why we landed over there at Plaza de Armas.
All right, let's talk about it. We got to talk about it.
Resist.
We have to talk about it.
I couldn't resist.
We have to talk about gay marriage. I don't mean having
No,
one.
I didn't even think we'd even
I
broach
know you didn't
that
think we'd even
subject
get to
today,
that.
Jack.
Look,
What took you so long?
the president hastily arranged an interview with Robin Roberts at ABC and said, I feel like I need to affirm that I ought to, have my position on this. It was very carefully sort of parsed sentence. Said, I think that gay people should be able to marry. Didn't say there was a right to it. The White House has since filled in a little bit and said he's not calling for a change in the Democratic Party platform. He's not suggesting that states should not have elections where they vote on this. So there really isn't anything tangible that comes of this. This doesn't translate to a new policy or the president calling for new legislation. Kind of looked to me like what this boiled down to, when you look behind all of it, was that the president was getting heat from some of his big campaign donors and campaign bundlers, many of whom are publicly gay, that they were fed up with his wink and nod, I have to say I'm against it, but I'm really for it. That's been his stance for such a long time. And according to the Washington Post, they finally told him, you gotta come clean on this, so he did. So this really was about going gay for pay. When it comes to Barack Obama. Jade?
Oh, me. Yeah, I knew you were going to look at me first on this.
We're all looking at you, Jade.
And that,
Can't take our eyes off you.
You know what? And that makes a lot of sense to look to me, because I'm someone who I grew up with it. I kind of like, I'm that bridge from that time where we didn't talk about it that much until here we are today with the president making this statement. And we were just having this conversation, off the air a second ago, how I noticed as a result of all the Facebook comments, and I was talking about a conversation I had with a 49-year-old colleague of mine who remembers a time when she would get bullied and taken to the an overnight stay at the jail just for having a little bit of eyeliner and stuff. And she was just so emotional about, I say she because she's transgendered now. And so she said if this had happened back in the day, back in the 80s when she was young, she said she would have gone to college. She would have felt different about the way society looks at her. And it made a really big difference for the president to say this to a lot of people who remember a very painful time in their life. I have been very fortunate where I've always felt like okay with where I am in society. So when I watch other people in the lesbian and gay community react this way, I can understand why. And I guess at the end of the day, I would say this was a good time to do it.
To me, the reason it looks so incredibly cynical to me is not only that the fundraisers were yanking on the leash and demanding it, but we've known all along that this was his position. He simply didn't think it was good politics to say so. In fact, if you go all the way back to his first campaign for state senate in Illinois in 1996, he comes out unequivocally for gay marriage. So as Jim Antle at the American Spectator pointed out this week, he may be the only person we know who was for gay marriage in 1996 and against it in 2011. But when you look at the reasons why, and then when you look at what he really said, he didn't say that it's a civil right. He didn't say you have the right to it, you should have the right to it. He just said you should be able to do it like he's a bystander. I don't find it to be a real profile and courage
Of course
moment.
you don't. What would he have said that would have made you think otherwise?
Well, I'll give you an
No,
example.
I'm just serious.
I'll answer your question.
No,
Let me answer your question.
It's like whatever he would have said, you would have,
I will answer your question. Gary Johnson, who's the Libertarian Party nominee for president, is unequivocally coming out and has been for a long time saying it's a civil rights issue. Gay people have a civil right to get married. I happen to believe that gay people should get married.
I know you do.
I don't think the president said anything about anything here. I think he took a little bit of heat off himself, Lisa, before he went to the Hollywood fundraiser.
That may be true. But like what, nobody's ever done that before? I mean, so he said it. But he said it. And it's a big deal to some people. It's a big deal to me, actually, because it's a step towards, us being human beings. I mean,
A step towards us being human beings.
Total human.
Really?
He couldn't wait. Well, to all
Really?
of us. To all of us. I mean, it's a step in the right direction. Mainly because no president has ever said it.
No,
it has needed to be said. And now it's been said. So now we go from there. I mean, he wasn't going to make a big long speech in detail about what was going to happen, because that's got to come later. But he did, he started off the thing. The thing
The
is now
dialogue.
out of the gate.
I don't think there's going to be a lot of dialogue.
And I'll tell you
Let me
something else that I think.
He
This
needed
may
to-
not have
he
helped him,
said-
except with the
He
the
said
financial
the bare
part of it.
minimum. He said the bare minimum that he could say about the subject to get people who are big-time campaign donors back in his camp, and he raised $1 million within 90 minutes of giving that interview.
$1
on
million.
ABC.
Okay, well, $1 million in the big picture isn't much, but so
Well,
it helps.
it's a big deal when your major fundraisers in Hollywood, many of whom are successful gay men and women, are telling you, we're going to sit on the sidelines if you don't straighten this
well,
out.
then he said it. It's something. It's not like he's. Okay.
So I'm not
all right,
denying.
all
I'm
right.
not denying that he said it.
So cut-
political
okay.
Let's admit to
expediency,
why he said
not
it.
because it's his conviction.
It is-
Because if it was his
is the way-
conviction,
okay.
he would have come out thoroughly behind it and said, "I think this should be
No, listen to me.
common
I don't think that's.
Oh yeah. Oh
Well,
yeah.
maybe
What
that.
kind of
I
a
have to say
conviction
this.
do you hold in private for 20 years until it's politically acceptable or necessary?
I don't know.
to
Lots
say
of
it?
your
What kind of a
politicians.
conviction
Everybody.
is
Lots,
that?
everybody.
That's
I mean, look at
you keep
Reagan.
saying
I have-
politician,
I
but
have
that's
to
was
say
a
this.
Democrat.
I have to say
That's
this. I just
exactly what
remember,
it is.
I
It's
remember
cynical
a time,
politics.
I remember a time when all of the gay people that surrounded Laura Bush, from her hairstylist to the people who dress her, there was like some hype about all that. And I remember when she was asked about it, she said something that really stuck with me. She said, "I don't think the American people are ready for this yet." And I remember being a little like miffed by it, but I saw the leadership wisdom in the statement. And so when I see Obama doing something like this, where it seems like a baby step, maybe it seems like 1 foot in the water and 1 foot not, it is like something that the people might be just a little
So
bit ready
let
for.
me ask this.
They had
question.
an interview with George Bush saying that he agreed with it.
Let me ask this
Recently?
question.
No, but before.
Let me ask this question. Where should the decision to make this a civil right come from? Should it come from the politicians? Should it come from the courts? Or should it come from the electorate? And we're talking about a complete change in our society of how we view an institution. All right? And now the question becomes okay, what's next?
Well,
I mean, no one's asking that
First, you
question.
have to argue, are you arguing that it's a right? In which case, we shouldn't be having elections about it. We don't have elections about rights. We don't put your rights up to a vote.
That's true.
So if it's a right, then you come out and say that. You don't say gay people should be able to get married. You say gay people have the right to get married. We didn't say in the 1950s black and white children should be able to go to school together. We said they have a right to go to school together. It was the civil rights movement, not the civil shoulds movement. Now, I think for starters, you have to decide where you stand on that, and the president hasn't done that. He's a bystander. He's he's voting present on that. And then secondly, are you saying that you actually will do something about it? Or are you just saying, as a bystander, yeah, I think it should happen, but I'm not going to get involved in these states where they're voting it down? It's not for me to tell gay people how to feel about it. If they feel good about it, I'm glad. I'm glad they're having a good week. But it's a cynical, crass, political move by a guy who has, it seems to me, who will say anything to get elected. There just seems to be no there. There's no core there. I know they say that a lot about Romney, and it may be true of Romney as well, but it's certainly on display this week with Barack Obama.
Well, regardless of any of that, the fact, and we were talking about what the president's, like, the seat of power that he has and how people, listen to whatever
The bully pulpit.
a president says. Yeah. I think it was very clear that the seat of the presidency made that statement, and that is why the LGBT community were so excited about that. Probably more so than Obama himself, in my opinion. Because it was the president who said that. You can't undo that in history books.
He said it.
Right.
And
As the president.
and-
had he been an
let me ask
former
you. Let me
president
ask you though. Let
or-
me ask you. Would we
or
have
candidate?
been satisfied 50 years ago or 60 years ago if a president said, "Gee, I think that black children should be able to go to schools that white children only attend"?
Satisfied?
Or
no.
would we have said, where is the federal intervention? Where are the troops? Where is the legislation? Where's the rubber meets the road? I mean, again, I can't tell the lesbian gay community what to think, But it seems to me they're settling for a lot less than they should.
Right.
If one
But to
quick
answer your
interview on
question,
If this was
ABC.
this
over,
happened a
yeah.
long time ago. Satisfied? No, 50 years ago. But motivated? Yes. It would have started something. It would have started a movement. And like what you were saying.
But you- both you and
whether
Lisa
it's for the
seem
people or
very-
for the politicians. Yeah, the people need to be involved.
But both of you seem very certain that this is the beginning of something bigger. Let me point out
Well,
that.
of course
I
it
can't
is.
imagine
Let
that
me
it's not.
point out.
The culture wars are beginning, like in a way that they haven't before, as a result of that statement.
I don't know. I mean, I think you're giving him a little too much credit.
I'm not giving. We're not
Not
giving
Obama.
any-
I'm
public
talking about
opinion.
the
The
president.
presidency.
Public
I-
opinion.
Presidents, yes.
Public opinion was already moving, and has been for some time, in the direction of gay marriage. And you look at surveys and people, especially younger people, and we've talked about this on Gang of Four, if you did nothing but just wait for the generations to advance, this is all going to come anyway, because younger people are fine with it. They have no ick factor with it.
Right.
It's very normal and mainstream.
Generationally, with the
It's a
passing,
generational
10
thing.
years from now, this
Yeah.
is a non-issue
So,
and a non-starter.
so he's not starting it. He's joining it fairly late.
Right.
And secondly, just for saying, I think they should be able to do it, he went and collected his $15 million at the George Clooney party, but he didn't actually commit to any plan of action or change or campaigning for it. And by the way, I'll be very surprised if you ever hear him say anything more about it between now and Election Day.
You mean
'Cause
like
I think,
guns?
Because I think he said only what he had to say to get the heat off after the Biden interview and the other stuff. He needed to make this thing calm down. He had gotten away for a very long time with a very nuanced position. You know, well, I mean, how would you sum up his position before he gave this interview? I support gay rights, but I oppose gay marriage. And now he's saying I support gay marriage, but I don't believe the federal government should intervene on it. I mean, it's a baby step. It may be,
But it's a step.
it may be a step, but it's a baby step. And if you don't see clearly that this was to pick up that money and to calm down those donors, then I feel sorry for you because you're a little naive.
And if we do, so what?
Exactly. I mean, that's just support. I mean, that's it. Just
Well, you know, ignorance is bliss.
Well,
What
it's
does
nice to know.
ignorance have to do
It's
with
nice
it?
to know then that for all the
Naivete
years.
Well, we're not saying we didn't
Okay.
realize that. We're saying yes,
In
we
the
do. We're
interview-
not naive.
In the interview, where he says, I've been thinking about the people my family knows, and these friends of mine, and these colleagues, and it's been weighing on me. It's nice to know that for all the years he's been thinking about people he cares about who are gay and what's happening with them. The only thing that moved him was the money. He didn't
We
make
don't know
this
that to be
decision.
true.
I think
I
it's
mean, but
pretty.
it could be.
I think it's pretty coincidental,
Okay, so
Lisa,
what difference?
that the
Okay,
same day
all right,
he gave
all right,
the
so
interview,
time out.
he
So-
flew to Hollywood
Okay,
to pick up
so
those
you're
checks.
standing there pleading your case as far as that you think that he did this for money.
There's
Okay.
no case to plead, it's obvious.
And then what? Okay, now, and...
So what
It's like,
will he
we're
say
going to go over to
next
my
for
grandmother's house for coffee and...
And-
So-
No.
Speaking
And-
of grandmothers.
And
speaking of
let's
grandmothers,
watch and see what this translates to.
Okay.
My grandmother has this dicho, cuando no hay lomo, todo como. And what that means is, when there's nothing else to eat, you're going to eat whatever is there. The lesbian and gay community have had nothing from the presidency. So you give us a morsel, we are going to treat it like a feast. And I say
But don't
we.
they realize they're being thrown just a political bone that really he did with
Well, what
the
he's saying,
shallowest of
Robert,
intentions?
What Jade is saying is they don't
We've
care.
never
Apparently
had
not.
anything.
That's okay.
And
All right,
I hate
okay.
to say we because I'm trying to be objective, but I personally.
I've made my point, and you've made it for me. You're saying, yeah, we know what this is, and we're still okay with it. Then that's,
today
that's my
we're
point.
okay with
Okay,
it, but
it's-
we
okay.
haven't had anything.
Okay,
That's fine.
It's the same thing
That's
that
fine.
the question that they asked, is this going to give him more young and gay and lesbian voters?
No,
Is
he
it-
had those voters.
That's exactly right. So it's for the money. So you're looking at me like no politician has ever taken money before.
No, I'm not.
I mean, give me a break.
No, but usually, Lisa, when politicians do
Ay,
things for money,
goodness
they're not
gracious.
lauded. They're not lauded as if they have.
You know,
part of
when
the
Romney
reason-
takes money or when somebody else takes money, you know, first of all, I don't hate Romney because he's rich. I don't hate George Bush for whatever reasons I don't like him, or Reagan, or any other Republican. Money is part of this. The Supreme Court basically said, okay, you can get money from anywhere. So basically what it boils down to is that's what you do in a campaign.
Okay.
You get people...
You're making my point beautifully.
I'm just saying, but I do believe he believes this.
No, he
and
always
the other
believed
thing
it.
is, okay,
he
but
always believed
said
it. He said it for the money. It's not. Does anybody in this room believe that he changed his mind about gay marriage,
No.
or that he simply decided to say what he always felt?
It was
about
time.
Okay, it was
Besides
time
that.
because it was time to pick up the
Oh,
checks.
for goodness sake. Okay, whatever. That's it. You know what? There's only so much you can say
You have
about
said
this
to
in that
me.
sense.
You have said what you have said to me in essence is, you know that's true, and you're okay with
It
that.
could be
That's
true.
fine. That's my point.
You know, maybe he was feeling pressure, but it was his opinion anyway. So just say it.
Mhm.
It's a big...
So in other words, what moved him? You agree?
It's
you
not
agree?
like he changed his mind for money, like some whores do.
No. Don't look at me when you say
No,
that.
honey, not you.
But when you agree with me, you are making my point. He's been for gay marriage since at least 1996,
Okay, so you know
the
what?
beginning of his
In
public life.
essence of this conversation in here, it's a moot point.
But
It's like you're basically saying we're agreeing with you. So
Right.
I don't know. You know.
I know it's very. Are you okay?
Yeah, but you know what I mean? It's like, what's next? I mean, that's...
Well, what's next is
okay.
we're going to take a headline break, and then we're going to come back and talk about some
I
other
love
stuff.
going on about this.
Are you
Robert's not
okay?
even looking at me.
He's checking his text.
Are you okay?
I'm fine.
All right.
I'm better than usual.
It'll get better, Lisa.
I hope so.
It'll get better. Don't worry.
Yep.
You only got to wait till November.
Yeah, really. I mean, you just think of all the pandering you can get between now and then.
Yeah. Next time you're here, he'll have pandered to some other group for some other reason.
And nobody else has ever pandered.
No. 10:29 into the newsroom on 550 KTSA.
I live in the most pandering city in the world.
I think it was called Cranbrook, and they told this story of how he and a couple of other guys bullied a kid who was thought to be gay and held him down and cut his hair because his hair was over the regulation length for this school. Now, there are a lot of problems with the story. It's falling apart and unraveling very quickly. By the end of this week, it's probably a dead issue. But that's just an incredible coincidence, Robert Fleming, that you would have that story in the works and it would just happen to hit the morning after the ABC interview.
You don't think they didn't have that in the can now, did you, Jack Riccardi?
I would never make such a scurrilous accusation. I'm shocked at you for saying that, but I mean, come on. If this isn't some sort of coordination, then it's the most incredible coincidence I've ever seen.
You know, I've worked for guys before, so they absolutely don't believe in coincidence, and it's very rarely that I believe in it either, and I don't think it is. I mean, I think that they do opposition research, and they've had this in the can, just waiting to see if there was a time they might be able to trot it out, and the time presented itself, even in the most abstract way, so they brought it out, and like you said, the story's falling apart. The guy who was alleged to have been bullied has been dead, so the only person that can say yes or no, this didn't happen, is now dead.
Well, and
so
Except for Romney himself, who made a comment about it, saying...
He says, I don't remember it.
Well, he don't remember anything, but still, he doesn't remember
Okay,
that.
let me ask you, what were you doing 47 years ago? And I'm sure you were a mean girl to somebody because you have that. We all have that in us.
I'm not a mean girl.
Oh, come
I
on.
was always
You were
bullied.
not pissy or something
Excuse
with
me.
anybody 47
Let me tell you a
years ago?
story.
She only
My
got mean
father
in
was in
recent
the
years.
Army. I was never anywhere any long to make any friends for any length of time, so I didn't know anybody very well. And don't even go there with me because I can tell you unequivocally that I was never a mean girl,
Okay.
and I never will be.
All right,
except to you
I
right
don't want
now.
to talk about. I don't want to talk about how you were as a child. I'm not
You brought
interested in
it
that.
up. Okay.
You defended yourself. Shh. All right. Here's what I'm asking. You have, as Robert mentioned, the main character is no longer with us.
Romney himself said.
You have Mitt Romney saying, I did a lot of dumb things, but I don't remember that one. And then you have this guy who was the main source for the story, Stu White, classmate of Mitt Romney, who says in the story that it's bothered him ever since, but now says, I only heard about it when the Washington Post contacted me to ask me about it. The Washington Post then alters, and you'll find this interesting as an online journalist, Jade, the Washington Post then alters the online posted story without making mention
without
of
an editor's
saying,
note?
yes, no editor's note, no, we've revised it, we've corrected
You
it.
can't do that.
Well, you can, and they
You should not.
And so now the quote, instead of "it's bothered me ever since," was something like, "he's been bothered for weeks since we contacted him to ask about it." I mean, it's a very poorly done hit job. But let's remember that when he ran for the Senate, he had a Democratic primary opponent. They hit him on his divorce papers, a guy named Blair Hull. Then he runs in the general election for the Senate against a guy named Jack Ryan, I think was his name. And remember, he'd been through a divorce. All of a sudden, his divorce papers, which were sealed in the court, those come out. I mean, all I'm saying is, it's either the most incredible coincidence ever, or they're running against Romney exactly the way they ran against the Illinois opponents for the Senate
this is,
in 04.
hey, you know, everybody knows I'm from Chicago. Grew up on the north side. My folks were involved with Chicago politics. This has got Axelrod's,
I mean,
Grumpy little
you
hack
don't-
Chicago
with
pile
Romney,
on
you
it
don't
all
have a
over it.
divorce,
Yep.
so you can't go after his
That's no
marriage.
problem.
So the next thing you've got to do is go after the, youth or, what have you.
Yeah.
You're allowed to change. Look at how George Wallace changed. I'm not sure, but I truly believe that man had a change of heart in his life. And I think a lot of people do have a change of heart in their life over the years from 48 years ago. And I really don't think it's that relevant. I think that it tells you about somebody to some extent who I'm not voting for.
Well, it tells
anyway.
you about somebody, and it also tells you
But
something
it doesn't
about...
make me hate him worse.
No, it doesn't. But it does also tell you something about his opponent. It tells you something about their campaign and the way they're going to wage this campaign.
Okay,
now,
well,
in
yeah.
2004, maybe you could say
That's true.
it was Chicago, he's Barack Obama, he's a nobody. He's got to find something to hit these more powerful, established guys with. But now he's the President of the United States. He's running for re-election. Ostensibly, he should be proud of his record and running on it and explaining it to us.
And that's
instead,
really the only
we've got
issue.
the
That is
dog,
true.
we've got the bully. I mean,
It's
If
the
people buy
only-
it,
it's very telling.
Then that department is doing a good job. But I gotta go back to the whole bullying thing. I shake my head. It's like bullying is as American as apple pie. All of a sudden, it's this bad thing, and I get that. And yes, it should be monitored and stuff. But we're talking about the 40s and 50s and 60s. Please, please.
Yeah,
You're not American if you're not a bully.
It's
well,
not.
except for Lisa. Lisa didn't
I
bully.
was never a bully because I never got to know anybody long enough to bully.
Maybe that means Lisa's not really an American.
I was born in
Where's my
Kenya.
birth certificate?
I'm just saying, this is the kind of stuff
I know.
that just zips in and zips out. For me, for some people, unfortunately, because they're not very bright, and most people don't think, and look at his eyes come up thinking I'm not very bright, it's that they take it to heart. They take it to heart.
Well, it's the shiny object thing. You can distract some people with shiny
you can
objects.
distract a lot of people with a shiny
We're back on
object.
Gang of Four. It's 10:46 on 550 KTSA. Time cycles go well beyond 2012. You know what else they discovered? This is really surprising. A lot of people were caught off guard. The new Mayan calendar is a Ziggy calendar. I didn't know he went that far back. All right, on Gang today we have Robert Fleming from Magnolia Pancake House, Lisa Hunt, who brought in these. Maybe you want to get a close up, but no, maybe actually you don't.
Well, I've been picking up. I've been eating my scones from
She
Miss
brought in
Williams
some,
Bakery.
Yeah, blueberry scones.
Very tasty.
I'm glad you guys like it. I'm glad you guys like it because they are the best bakery. She will make you pretty much anything you ever wanted
And
there.
where is she?
She's over on Topperwine, about 2 blocks north of the Northeast Methodist Hospital in the Brentwood Plaza Shopping Center.
Williams Confectionery.
Williams Confectionery, and it was packed
And Robert,
this
you
morning.
know your. I mean, you know your.
No,
baked
those are
goods,
good.
and
Those are
really
good.
good.
Yeah.
Those are very good scones.
Jade
Yes, they
Esteban
do a very
Estrada.
nice job.
Jade, when's the next glitter political column going to run?
The glitter
Post.
political column is running on
need some more.
Tuesdays these days.
She put a new one up every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday.
Do you know
we
what the next one will be about?
You know what? I'm covering this weekend the something that you spoke to the guys over at the atheist guys.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We're gonna go a little in depth in that story and talk to also the people who put up the billboard that says "Thank God"
Mhm.
over on somewhere on I-10.
Yeah.
And so I'd like to put these two people together. You know, because a lot of people may think that there's like this going to be this big fight between atheism and religious people, but there's just seems to be a lot of apathy. And I'd like to really see where people are.
I found that
I'm glad
interesting.
you brought that up. We had them on this week. There's a coalition of atheist groups. There's like 5 groups. The San Antonio version.
Yeah, because I
and there
noticed
didn't
that
seem to
because
be
I found
other
out about other places that had,
denominations.
different events going on for different groups of peoples that would, encourage them to learn about other people's religions.
I'll tell you what.
But I don't know.
I'll tell you what. I'll put you on assignment for the Jack Riccardi show.
Okay.
Why don't you contact a rabbi or an imam and ask if they were invited?
All
Let
right.
us know what you find.
Well, actually,
I'd like to know if they were invited.
contacted somebody first to make sure that I wasn't wrong, but I never got a response.
I just want to know if they were invited and didn't come, or if they.
Well, I was curious about it too, so I figured before I insulted the mayor
Right.
that I would ask him.
Yeah.
Do you remember that conversation we had with Trish DeBerry when she was organizing something with HEB and like this big
You wanna drink
Christmas
water before I
Eve
drink?
like thing, and she had asked all
Yeah,
religious
yeah.
leaders, and that I believe it was Barry Block over at Temple Bethel who kind of like lost a gasket over being invited
Right,
because
right.
but she was just trying to be inclusive. I wonder.
For what?
For inviting the Jewish people of the Jewish faith to a Christian.
I'll tell you what. God bless anyone who tries to organize any interdenominational event. It is
really? Talk about hurting.
Well, Rabbi Block likes
is
to be
a-
at stuff, so
it's a thankless task.
I can't imagine that he wouldn't have showed up.
According to Trish, he was offended. But
Have you all seen the Time magazine cover by now?
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, I have.
Are you mom enough? Shows a young mom, very, very pretty lady, breastfeeding her little boy. They say this kid is 2.
No,
That's the
six.
biggest
Wow.
2-year-old
No
Not
way.
2 years
ever.
old.
He shaved before.
If he's
that.
2, I'm 18.
No,
But
they say
anyway,
he's 6.
she says he's 2.
Yeah, he's 2.
But in any event, that just goes to show you what breast milk can do.
Exactly.
Offensive, who cares?
I think it's so wrong. And I
hilarious.
think that's the wrong question. That is so like. I don't like to see things like that. I don't.
Well, that's because it's a woman's body, Jade. But
Well, there is that. I just think.
try to step aside from that for a minute.
Snap.
At what point? I mean, like you gotta separate. You gotta separate. You gotta wean.
Hers looks separated. They're both lifted and separated,
Oh
as far
Lord,
as I can tell.
no! I think that's just wrong.
Wrong because it's.
He's
What?
too old?
He's old as an old kid.
Okay, so the breastfeeding is wrong.
At
not
that
the
age,
not
yes.
the exposure of the.
I
What
don't
if she
know,
had
the
a?
exposure's
Would it be
fine.
different if she had a newborn?
Yeah, of
little
course.
Swaddling clothes?
My issue, if that wasn't clear, is the age of the
Okay,
child.
it wasn't clear.
I'm
so-
sorry, I was just freaking out.
Yeah, I mean, you
I was generally freaking out.
You have a cover picture, and it looks like the kid's like getting ready to go to work in about a half an hour once they have something to eat. I mean, it's just, and I don't even know what the content of the
It's
article
about
was.
attachment parenting. These are people that sleep with their kids, several years in. They carry them everywhere. They breastfeed way past the point where you would normally stop.
Take showers with them. That's just too much.
That's just
too
weird.
much.
Well, it's their choice, right?
It is their choice.
Who
but
are
at
we
what
to
point
judge
is it
if
just
that's what
kind
they
of
wanna do?
Detrimental to the child's growth. I don't know. I just think that's wrong. I think it's offensive.
When you say detrimental to their growth, what are you afraid is going to happen to this kid?
That
Like,
the
could
kid
be a
is not-
mama's boy, or
Mama's boy.
I wouldn't say it was a mama's boy thing. I just think at some point there's a child being breastfed by a mother that's a baby needing nourishment, and at some point the child becomes cognizant, and it's that child. How old is that child? Do you think? It's like what?
6. He's 6.
6.
Yeah.
6 years old. A 6-year-old kid in 2012.
Yeah.
That's like an adult.
well,
Well,
It's like,
especially when there's 5-year-olds getting booted out of kindergarten for singing "I'm too sexy for my shirt" or something and being charged with sexual harassment. I mean,
I'm
where's
just
the
glad.
disconnect
I'm just
there?
glad I'm not a kid today. It
Oh,
seems
God,
like a
yes.
pretty hellish place to be a kid these days. I'm glad I got that
imagine.
over and
Yeah.
done with. Aren't we all glad we're not growing up these days?
Yes.
All right.
They're still trying to.
Have you also heard about this this reporter? I've never heard of her before. She works for the Houston Chronicle. Sarah Tressler. She's a society columnist. I didn't even know they still had society
really?
columnists.
Is her name Muffy?
like what? Society
goes.
columnist. Do they also
know.
do they have like a women's page too?
Yeah, really.
But anyway, she's a society columnist. She says they fired her last month because she didn't disclose to them that her other part-time job is working as a stripper.
Of course.
Oh.
Isn't it always?
Listen, if I could, there's some sweet cash in that.
Let me tell you
I
something.
am
If
so
I could
jealous.
pole dance,
I am so jealous.
No, don't go there, Robert. Don't say nothing. Say nothing. Let it go.
They make so much
You own a business.
money.
You're a pillar of the community.
I don't do
Don't
it.
take
why
any
don't we
chances.
put a pole
I
in
don't
the
want to be
Magnolia
pilloried in
Pancake
the
House?
community.
A pillar on a pole. I like it.
What about this, Jade? I mean,
About the stripper thing?
should you have to tell your?
So.
Can't you
jealous.
strip in your own time?
I don't know. They make. So
Aren't you free?
much
Didn't we fight wars so people could strip in their own on their own off hours? I mean,
You know what? Stripping brings in so much money that the society column becomes a little hobby. I think it's the other way around. I think that is they make.
maybe there's
so,
not that much to write about in a
I'm
society
so
column.
Where is she
jealous.
from?
Hey, maybe yeah, it's true. Maybe
Houston?
she gets-
Was it Houston?
Houston
you
Chronicle.
said?
Houston Chronicle.
What society, people?
Yeah, I don't know.
Houston.
She's
Houston
filed
is
she's
society.
filed an EEOC
Oh, yeah.
lawsuit.
The pretend
that
people.
she's been her rights have been violated. She got Gloria Allred
Of course.
representing her,
Gloria's so busy.
and she says never interfered with her duties. She only occasionally worked as an exotic dancer. Always got her, always met her deadlines and did her stuff. She says, "Look, I'm an independent contractor, and I didn't have to list it on my job
Good for
application."
her.
Yeah, I'm all
I mean,
for that.
if she's
she really
actually,
wants to.
from a legal standpoint, if she's an independent contractor, it has absolutely nothing to do with it. However,
An independent
if she's
contractor
an
as a writer.
if she's an
Is that what we're
independent, yeah,
talking
right.
Yeah.
But however, if she's an independent contractor, then she's not an employee, so they can terminate her contract at will.
Oh yeah.
No, she's saying she's an independent contractor as a dancer. That she's
Oh,
not. She doesn't
right.
work for a club. She's not on the payroll of a club. She just dances. Look, I don't even know how this works. I guess she gets gigs. People hire her. She's a
I thought
she's a freelance.
Riley was an independent
I
contractor.
think
So did I,
jealous.
that's what I thought
think
about, too.
jealous women fired her.
Little
could
of
be
that last person in the lifeboat. Yeah, okay.
I know my girlfriends. That's how they think.
That's
Women
how
in a
they roll
workplace can be pretty vicious with other women.
Remember
can't they?
that time? Remember that woman who got fired because she was too hot
Right.
years ago?
Right.
Dude, there's a lot of truth in that.
There is a lot.
Yeah.
We have almost on a daily basis now former NFL players either suing the league or coming out and saying Art Monk, who's was a legendary player for the Redskins, coming out and saying short-term memory loss, headaches, can't talk right, suing the league, suing the helmet manufacturers. At the same time, we have the owners of the NFL considering drastic rule changes like no more kickoffs. We have people saying maybe we shouldn't have college football anymore because it's too dangerous and endangers the lives and the health and the risk and everything. Is there a future for football, or is football too violent, too politically incorrect for our times?
I just had a conversation this morning at the gym with my trainer. We were talking about this whole thing with these guys in the head.
You show it off.
I know.
I was just talking with my
It
trainer.
looks so good, too.
Anyways, the professional football game has become incredibly violent. I mean, you got a guy that's 6'5", 280 pounds, moving,
Wearing armor.
wearing armor, moving at 15 miles an hour, hitting another person.
Right.
It's like being in a car crash.
Right.
And I'm not surprised that these cats are having problems, and they're gonna have to figure it out. But I bet the same, we didn't know about it, but the same issues were probably happening in the 40s and 50s when they didn't have these advanced technology helmets. Of course, the guys didn't weigh as much either. They're not
Well,
on super
I'm gonna tell you
diets
something.
and super training and all that stuff.
There was a lot more crap going on in the 70s, like with the Oakland Raiders and those kind of teams, that, I mean, it was kill or be killed. I mean, those guys, when they played, I mean, you knew you played them after you finished a game.
Oh yeah.
And I think now it's, pussied out a little bit, if you excuse the
Yeah, but
expression.
there were people
look,
back then
you
that
sign
had
up to play
injuries
this game,
as well.
you get a lot of money to play it. Stuff happens, guys. Okay, I you don't, it's wise after the fact, but it's a violent game. It's always been a violent game, and it always will be. You either get rid of it and stop this crap, or you continue to play.
As long as we have beauty pageants and the Academy Awards, we will always have rough games like football because that's what people like. I know I will always support those things that I just mentioned, and I don't understand why straight guys and lesbians like all this football stuff, but I know that's not going to change, and it's always going to be there. The more violent,
there's straight
the better.
girls that like football.
I
too.
love
just
football.
don't like
Football is my
There are
I
straight
want-
women that like football. Just
They're just trying
I
to
know.
make you happy. They're bringing you peanuts and beer. You know that's all they're doing.
No, honey, I watch 3 football games on Sunday. I
can you
watch
imagine
the
her
early
bringing
game, the
anybody
late game,
peanuts?
and the
Yeah,
Sunday
no, I
night
don't think
game.
she brings Scotty. I don't think she brings Scott, her husband, any beers either.
I-
She makes him go get them. Hey, go
I
get
think
me
it's
a
I think it's
snack.
funny how
He's
people.
a pretty tough guy. You
It's funny
know?
how people kind of wring their hands over this, but we watch these sports. We enjoy it. Of
course.
And we enjoy the excitement of the hits. I mean, look.
You can get hurt.
You can
playing
explain to
basketball,
me what
too.
you just said, Robert, which is that it's like war or car crash, and in fact the equipment almost works in conspiracy with it, because if you're going to dress me in Kevlar, then I'm going to throw
Put it on
myself
you,
at
yeah,
you
throw
much
it on
more
you
than
for
if
sure.
I'm wearing a leather helmet.
Yep.
I just think that at the end of the day, when push comes to shove, we're not going to choose to give these things up.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And
not.
we're going to pay any price,
Bread
and
and
if
circuses.
need be,
Mm-hmm.
the NFL will become like an HMO with, lifetime medical. But I mean, I don't think there'll ever be a time that people will say, I don't choose to watch this exciting sport anymore on weekends because I'm worried
It's
about.
just too violent.
Yes, I'm worried about what's happening to the people playing it.
Well, you can get, you can
in
get
what
killed
universe?
in a car race. First of all, the Indianapolis Speedway is not a safe place.
Well, I guess if we got rid of football, we'd have to look at other things too. We'd have to look
Like politics.
We'd have to look at racing. We'd have to look at
Hockey.
hockey. Absolutely,
Hockey's
I went
not
to a fight
violent.
and a hockey game broke
Yeah,
out.
hockey's not violent, is it? Oh, excuse me. And you can get really hurt at a basketball game.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's not nearly as supposedly physical, but
Unless you're playing with Meta World Peace.
yeah, he has no idea what he did, does he?
All right, we're back with the lightning round of Gang of Four, but first we head into the 550 KTSA newsroom for these headlines. Had primary night in several states on Tuesday, and the surprise winner, this Texas prison inmate, 41% of the Democratic primary vote in West Virginia, almost catches up to President Obama. 41%.
Have you ever
This
been to
guy's
West
in
Virginia?
prison.
40. Let me see that again.
Have you ever been to West Virginia?
I've been over it.
Okay. Have you ever been to West Virginia?
no, I can't say that.
You.
Again.
I've been there. I had to work.
Which makes you the authority
Makes
on
me
West
authority on West Virginia. I spent a lot of time there.
And what do you explain it to
Lightning
me?
round.
Okay. Let me tell you the story. I get out of the car with a pair of shorts on in some small town to do. We did mystery shopping all over the country. Okay. I used to work outside of Watts in L.A. I was the only white person.
Come
in the
back to
store.
us,
Okay.
Lisa. Come
Okay. I have never been so afraid in my entire life
It is a scary.
You were afraid
when I
of
got
West
out of the
Virginia.
car in West Virginia. Okay. The end.
Do they look like this guy?
They do.
I'm just wondering,
Is that a
his-
mullet? Is that a mullet? Because
Listen, this is a
accurate.
mullet with a ponytail.
Well, what I'm trying to figure out is that his
It's a
booking
mullet
photo
plus.
or is that his prison photo? Because really, I mean, is he
That's
like?
his campaign poster.
I was gonna say, is he working on Locks for Love or what's he got
What
going
I
on there?
what I love
That's a
about
hell
it
of a
is
hairstyle.
he's not only in prison, he's not even in prison in West Virginia.
That's right.
And
How did he get on the ballot?
$2,500 filled out the form. He has delegates.
Where does a prison
He
guy
now-
get 2,500?
He now
bucks?
they work. They make license plates.
Oh, okay.
He now has delegates that he will
Yes,
he can
he
send to
does.
the convention.
Wow.
Look, we're electing people all the time that are going to be in prison eventually.
We're trying-
This
we're
guy's
just cut to the
already there,
chase.
that's all.
That's right.
All right.
Chase.
Lisa, you asked me about this earlier. I could not be enjoying this more if it was my birthday every day of the week. Elizabeth Warren,
Elizabeth Warren.
the Democratic candidate for the Senate in Massachusetts. You all know by now the story. She's got this long academic career, meteoric rise. She was at UT. She winds up at Harvard Law School along the way. Lots of very prestigious stops. And it turns out that over the years she was checking the little box that said Native American, and these schools were hiring her so they could say they had at least one Native American professor. Well, the only problem with it is now she's running for the Senate. She's being a little more thoroughly vetted than these schools apparently did, and she's not Native American, or if she is, it's very hard to prove. It's 1/32 or something like
Just
that.
as the head of the Cherokee Nation is 1/32 Cherokee.
And it also turns out now that her other grandparent in that generation was one of the leaders of the Trail of Tears, which is the cavalry going around rounding up the Indians and driving them off their land.
Oh.
So if anything, she's actually descended from the enemies of the Native Americans, not the Native Americans.
She who lies on application forms. That's a Native American.
Well, she's not lying.
But people have said, well, Lisa, I think she was, because she didn't even know what her connection was until they found out during the campaign. So all these
Okay,
years
so-
that she's been claiming it, she was claiming it with no way of knowing what the connection or what the
All
lineage
right, well, now
was.
they know what the connection is. I mean, I don't understand what the big deal is. She's
Well,
not
you know-
saying that she's, full-blooded
Well-
Cherokee. She is 132nd.
Is
And
it-
so is the
it-
head of the Cherokee Nation
Is it?
is 132nd Cherokee. What are you
Is
shaking
it-
your head for? I mean, who cares? Everybody claims to be Cherokee.
You
She actually
always
is.
say, who cares?
Everybody-
It's no big deal when it's a
everybody-
gig you support.
Oh.
But when it's the same
Everybody
thing on the
claims
other
to
side,
be
it's a
Cherokee.
huge
No,
deal
no.
for you, honey.
I don't know why they're making such a big deal out of it. I'm making a big deal about it because the fact is that she is. So
No.
what? So
Here's
so
what I think is-
what is the controversy?
Can I answer your question? You
Go,
keep asking.
please, go
Okay.
ahead.
Here's the issue. If the point of affirmative action, and correct me if I have this wrong, is that in the past people of a particular ethnic group or racial group couldn't get a break.
Right.
And we're now compensating for that by making sure we fill quotas or numbers or hit targets. Then we are filling the number, in this case, with a phony. We haven't given somebody who comes from an oppressed background or a deprived background an opportunity to
So
teach
she
at
got
these
into
law
Harvard
schools.
because of affirmative action. Is that what they're saying?
She got these jobs. She was hired on the basis of they thought they were getting a Native American professor.
There's a great character on the TV show Smash who's pretending to, it's
Pretending to be gay?
Yeah.
It's all musical. He's pretending to be gay
Right.
to take advantage of all these things that come with being gay.
Listen,
Not for-
I've considered
I get
it.
a lot of free stuff because
Listen,
I'm
I've
gay.
considered it in radio. I'd be my ticket to
The
lifetime
first
employment.
Openly gay.
And
radio
here's the
show.
thing. And here's the thing.
Oh, good idea.
What are you accomplishing, Robert? If this is how you're hiring people, all you're doing is asking people to check a box. If they check it, you hire them. If they don't, you don't. How is that progress for Native Americans, women, African Americans?
I think it absolutely says why this is all just so crazy. This constant focus on, what are you? What part of this are you? Are you this? Are you that? Everybody says, well, we have to be, diverse and we have to be mindful. Well, society by its very nature is diverse anyways. And if all we focus is on, are you gay? Are you a black? Are you Native American? Are you left-handed? Are you under 6 feet tall? It's all just a bunch of BS. I mean, we should take people on the merits. If she was good enough to get hired as Elizabeth Warren, cut and dry, then she's good enough to be
Well,
hired.
here's the
Maybe
other
she
thing.
was.
Lisa, here's the other thing that I don't know if you're aware of this or not.
Probably
So
not.
Let me just point this out. So they go back and look. Once this hits the news, everybody's researching and digging. They go back and look, and they find that for several years, she's checking the box. Then she gets hired at Harvard. She stops checking the box because now it's not useful to her anymore. Then she runs for the Senate. Now in Massachusetts, there's actually a sizable Native American population, very politically active. If you actually were Native American, it would be a very smart thing to do to indicate you had some of that blood in you. Sort of like if you were running around here, you wouldn't neglect to mention you were part Mexican, if you were.
Right.
She makes no mention of it. So it's so clear that she used it when she needed it, when she got to the pinnacle of her profession, which I guess would be Harvard Law. That must be the most prestigious law school. She drops it. That's cynicism with a capital C. Not only is she a cynic, but they're cynical for not even checking to see if she's telling the truth, just so they can have the bragging rights of saying, we're the only Ivy League school in America with a Native American law professor. It stinks. That's why it's important.
Is that what they're saying?
That's what they said.
No, is
That's-
that what they're saying? We're the only...
That was their claim until this
Really?
was debunked.
Well, it's not debunked. She is part Cherokee.
Well,
It's not a proven thing. It's
yeah,
very,
I was
it's
gonna
very
say, how
much
do
in
you
dispute.
prove that you're 132nd?
I think that I
or
thought it
something?
had been
They
proven.
found a marriage certificate.
Oh, you know what? I don't know.
They don't
I
know.
don't know. That birth certificates, I don't know. From what I know, it's supposedly proven. I like Elizabeth Warren. I mean,
Is it a lie though if you don't know and you say it and then later on somebody finds out for you that you were telling the truth? Wasn't it a lie if you didn't have the backing when you were saying it?
If you say something,
I don't
knowing,
understand.
not
If
knowing
you-
that it's not true,
yeah.
that's
So
a
she
lie.
didn't
You
know
get
that she was.
caught.
She was just saying that she.
Well,
was.
she said
Is that how that
people in
goes?
her family told her they had some Indian blood, some Native American
Well,
blood.
she's from Oklahoma.
She had
I
a
mean,
picture, and the picture of the grandparent had high cheekbones.
and my husband's part Cherokee. I mean, I'm not, obviously, but I mean,
I would believe you are.
no, I'm not.
You're a tough woman. I can imagine you
Just
out there.
go with it. You can get some.
She's not a member of that.
But here we
She's
go
a
again.
warrior.
She's a Cherokee warrior. Yes.
No, you are.
I'm not going to go there. By the way, they also had a really cool thing there. For about a day in Massachusetts, the state had made a law that said you could not have bake sales at school because if you're selling candy bars for fundraisers or cupcakes to support the choir or whatever, those are, I love this term, those are competitive foods. We can't have competitive foods with the new healthy food we serve in the cafeteria, so no competitive foods will be allowed. This was such an outrage, even in Massachusetts, where they've never met a law they didn't like, that the legislature unanimously overturned it as fast as they could. But I love that idea that having a bake sale after school or selling, candy bars to field
It's
the
after
senior
school.
trip.
After school.
At school, after school, outside of school.
I think
you
it might be a
couldn't
little
do any of
different if
those
it's during
things.
school and after school, but it's interesting.
Why not? Why not
Because-
have a bake sale? at
Because it
school?
is competitive if it's during lunchtime and you're not going to eat the lunch.
Yes, it is competitive.
But if you've already digested the food, kind of sort of you're on your way home, that's different.
What was the bake sale for?
For all these different things, football teams, school trips,
for school
choir,
stuff?
yeah.
Right-wing football.
Right.
Yeah, but what about the choir then?
The choir.
Democrats, obviously.
Democratic choir. Right-wing football.
I just love competitive food.
Shooting and
Competitive food is very
Don't wanna
exciting.
eat- the kids don't want to eat the
As
food
long as it
in the
doesn't get
first
you
place.
violent.
Because
I'm
Joe's
fine
a
with
for a
it.
cupcake.
If you're gonna have competitive food, then wouldn't the food you serve at home also be competitive?
Well, now I
It
say, where
is.
does the bag lunch come in?
Yeah.
Did
It's
you get a good
competing against
education
that.
when you lived in Boston?
I got a great education.
I was just,
Why do you
And
ask
a
that?
cupcake.
And what was the point?
cupcake.
And we had bake sales.
I was just, yeah, and
And you know what we would do when we had a bake sale? My dad would go and buy only what my mother sent to the bake sale. So everything we ever brought home from every school
it was
bake
already
sale
yours.
was already ours. And he told us, I don't know how clean their kitchens are. I'm only going to buy your mother's stuff because I know that her
so
kitchen's clean.
cute.
Yeah. But we
Should've
were a
just
little
cut to
bored.
the-
We
should've
were
just cut
bored
to
with
the
it.
chase
because we
and
were like,
sent your school with $10.
we want to
and
get
said,
some
"Just
new.
give it to 'em."
We want to get some new stuff. We already know these cupcakes. All right, one more thing. Speaking of schools, it took 8 years for an elementary school in Fort Worth to discover that they had misspelled
The school.
their own name.
Oh,
They had
no.
named-
That's embarrassing.
They had named the school after a retired educator, the woman that was the first teacher at that school apparently a long, long time ago. Her name was Macmillan, Mary Macmillan. But they named the school Macmillian. 8 years, big sign on the front of the school, letterhead, stationery, stickers. No one says anything.
It's the British spelling.
But wouldn't you think like the family would?
I was going to say, who finally pointed out the mistake?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
fourth grader.
Yeah, I don't know how they finally found out. I guess probably the family finally made a call, but obviously it didn't matter too much to them for 8 years.
Or maybe they hadn't been back to the old hometown for a while, and they
Yes,
came
no.
back for
Could
something
be.
like, hey, they misspelled our name.
So anyway,
I saw that. That's kind of. Right.
I would imagine though that this is, if there's a really smart kid at that school, he's now going to say, spelling doesn't count.
That's right.
Can't mark me down on that.
That's right.
Look at the front of the school. All right, Jade, we'll look forward to the next Glitter Political column. Plaza de Armas TX.com.
That's right.
Hope people can understand it in the very Anglo way that I said it. Lisa Hunt, who knows? Maybe a gang of four, maybe a drive-by, who knows? Are you going to do a little assignment we gave you? Or are you going to?
Yes, I actually
some
I am going to do a little
investigative-
assignment, and then you need to have me back soon.
I will have you back as soon as you have some news about the real story behind National Day of Prayer. I want to hear from you.
I would love to.
All right, so make a note of that, Taylor. So we have our first undercover correspondent.
That's right.
And Robert Fleming, look, I keep saying this every time I see you. The next time we see you, the new place?
Oh, okay, sure. You keep saying. Yeah, I would have to say that probably the next time you see me,
It's a big
we'll have-
place
we'll
too. I
have
saw
two.
its picture.
Yeah, it's a good sized restaurant. It's
big.
a gorgeous
You have been
restaurant.
so patient
on a,
with it, though.
It's a
No,
gorgeous
yes,
restaurant on a great
crazy.
site. It's a cosmic endurance contest, man. It truly,
Well,
truly
are you going to
is.
let us know, seriously?
Oh yeah. When you'll get the call from me when we know that the doors are open and folks can come in, I will call you first.
In the
guy.
meantime, you can enjoy the original location, as we
original-
now have to call it,
the
over at
original
Gooders and
Magnolia.
West Avenue.
That's
in the
right.
The place I got a ticket going
Embassy
to.
Oaks Shopping
And that's
Center.
my fault somehow.
A major ticket. That was a $400 lunch.
Take it out to the parking lot, folks. Gang of Four is also a podcast. You can find it in the iTunes store and on the ktsa.com Jack Riccardi page. It's 11:42. Coming up after 12, toughest town on earth is in Texas. You'll find out all about it after we get these headlines.